Welcome to episode 116 of the Forward from 50 podcast, where we interview people over 50 who are pursuing new direction for their lives. It's an opportunity for men and women to tell their stories their way and in their own words. I'm Greg Gerber, the founder of Forward from 50 and your host for today's show. When Greg Burris saw his friends retire with plans that rarely extended beyond fishing or golfing, he realized something was missing in their lives. It was a sense of meaning and purpose. As a former city manager in Springfield, Missouri, Greg knew the power of civic engagement and community impact. That led him to create Give 5, a unique program that helps older adults to discover meaningful ways to volunteer in their own communities. In today's episode, Greg shares how the program works, the incredible transformation it sparks, and why giving back might just be the most fulfilling part of retirement. To have him tell his story in his own words, please welcome Greg Burris, the founder of Give 5, to the show. Thanks for joining me today, Greg. I really appreciate the time. How did you start developing the Give 5 program, and what's it all about?
It's a civic matchmaking program, and I'll explain what that means, but I started it when I had my friends who were starting to retire, and when I asked them what they're going to do in retirement, they said they were going to fish.
Yes, very popular.
That was it. That was the plan. I'm just going to fish. And I said, what else are you going to do? And they really didn't have any plans beyond that. So I thought, these are highly skilled people, very motivated. How long will fishing really last as their only endeavor? I predicted it would be about 30 to 60 days, and I was right. And then I would get a call from them and say, okay, I get it now. I need something else to do. What are my options? It's this idea that everyone needs to be needed and everyone needs to have purpose in their lives. And we think of retirement as a destination, right? You can even get the countdown app on your phone now and say,
Yep,
it's this many hours until I retire. But what we don't think about as much is, what about the week after retirement? And what about the month after? And what about the year after? And so the Give 5 program was created to help people, not just retirees, but any older adult, to learn about their own community. That's whether they're new to their community or they've lived there for 70 years, doesn't matter. We teach them about the community, and then we get on a bus and we go visit nonprofits. And it's a 5-day program, which sounds like a pretty significant commitment, and it is. Start at 8:30 in the morning. We're usually done by 3:30 in the afternoon. But during that time, we do speed dating with nonprofits. And what I mean by that is we show up at their front door at a scheduled time, and that nonprofit has 45 minutes to make their impression on us, the class. And during that time, we'll hear from the CEO. They'll talk about why this nonprofit exists. They'll talk specifically about what they do and who they serve in the community. And then they get into the volunteer opportunities. And we have this menu of volunteer opportunities, and they'll step through those. They may have some of their existing volunteers stand up and join them and do testimonials. What is the most powerful thing is a previous Give 5 graduate standing up saying, I was where you were last year, and I selected this nonprofit, and here's why I have no regrets. And this is what I get out of it, because the volunteers obviously get a lot out of the volunteering. And we tell classes, volunteering is voluntary. You don't have to do anything. But about 98% of our graduates do volunteer in the community.
That is...
Most don't select one. They select 2, 3, 4, or 5 opportunities.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. The conversation we typically hear on the bus about day 3 is, I've got it narrowed to 10. And we tell them, don't do 10. That's too many. We had a lady who did 7 one time. That's probably too many. Well, you can do as much or as little as you want. But it's just this idea of having something to fill that time, but also to know that you are needed. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't realize how much they're needed. And they don't realize what it's like to work in a nonprofit. Nonprofit workers, they all wear 7 hats, and they're all trying to juggle a lot of things. And you walk in and you've got a certain skill set. If we can figure out how to plug you in to where you get a chance to use that skill set, it means a lot to you. But it is jet fuel for the nonprofits.
That's a very good point. And I love to hear that you're talking about this, because I live in Sun City, Arizona, which is America's first planned retirement community.
Right.
A little over 60 years old. It was a community of about 50,000 people. It has 8 golf courses and 8 recreation centers. So people move here to recreate. And after about 6 months, they are bored out of their minds. So I love that you're doing this by introducing people not just to the community and educating them more about it, but to a variety of nonprofits and letting the nonprofits explain their missions in hopes of enthusiasm or making people enthusiastic about volunteering there. I think that's a wonderful opportunity.
And seeing is believing. If we had the nonprofits come to us, if we were sitting in a classroom all day and we had the CEOs coming to us and doing a PowerPoint presentation, it would not be nearly as engaging. But when you get on the bus and you're going to these places and you get a sense of what the vibe is at that nonprofit, that makes all the difference in the world. And one of the things, Greg, that we noticed that was an unexpected treasure is the conversations that occur on the bus. Because we thought, okay, this is a group of about 20 people per class. They don't know each other typically. Sometimes they'll come with a friend or a spouse. But for the most part, they don't know these people. These are going to be awkward bus rides. It's just the opposite. You can't hear yourself think on the bus because they are talking to each other. They're having a great time. They're talking about the nonprofit they just visited or the one they're going to or what they learned this morning. And so we not only visit the nonprofits, on days 2, 3, 4, and 5, we bring in guest speakers. So it might be the superintendent of public schools. It might be the mayor. It might be a city council member. It might be a university professor, somebody who knows a lot about our community and teaches what they know to the class. So they also get a chance to feel very special because they got a private audience with the mayor. They got a private audience with this university professor or the school superintendent, and they get a chance to ask questions of that person. Mm-hmm. So it's a really wonderful experience. They come through this energized. A lot of them say after the 5 days, they wish it wouldn't end, or what's the graduate program going to look like? We do have reunions where we bring all the graduates together and we'll have a high-profile guest speaker present to them, but they just like to get together and kind of be around people of the same ilk.
So what a wonderful opportunity and a program for seasoned citizens to really invest their natural skills, talents, and abilities in the community. Is this a nationwide thing or is it confined specifically to Springfield?
I'll say that when we started, our idea was, since we came up with it here, and we were looking to see if maybe there was something like it somewhere else. We went to RP and said, okay, we've got this idea for a program. Is anybody else already doing that? Eventually, they came back to us and said, we can't find it anywhere in the country. If you create it, it will be a first of its kind. And so we created it. And we were going to keep it to Springfield, Missouri. And we wanted Springfield, Missouri to get a reputation as the place to retire and be able to easily get engaged with your community. Wasn't long before other communities started hearing about it and said, hey, we want to do it too. So right now it's operational in 13 communities. There's 9 communities in the state of Missouri, and the state of Missouri has officially adopted the Give 5 program, and the state funds 9 programs. It's also in Oklahoma City and Tulsa, Oklahoma, Knoxville, Tennessee, Nacogdoches, Texas, and it looks like next is going to be San Antonio, Texas.
That's great that the people are hearing about this and demanding it in their own communities.
Yeah.
To make sure I understand it correctly, people sign up to register for this class. Is there a cost to the class?
There's not. We fund it through, like in Springfield, we fund it through a grant and sponsorships. And we do that very intentionally, Greg, because we don't want anybody to say, I can't afford to go through it. We want a really diverse class because they end up learning as much from each other as they do from what we're presenting to them. And it's rich experience of being around people that you wouldn't normally be around. Maybe it breaks your bubble a little bit and you're outside of that circle.
So people attend this free class. It's over a 5-day period. And rather than sitting in a classroom and listening to faces or people walking in talking about their organizations, they're getting on a bus and actually visiting the organization to see what happens there and to, just like you'd mentioned, capture the vibe of all the activity and the enthusiasm and the inspiration that's taking place there.
And when we started this, we trained the nonprofits on what we expected of them. Some of them got it. Some of them didn't quite get it. But by this point, we have trained our nonprofits, and we train the nonprofits in every other community we're in so that they know the best practices. We know now, after stubbing our toes in a variety of ways, what works best. And when you come into the nonprofit, We want you to be able to sit for half the time, and the other half the time, we want you moving and touring the place. So you're learning about the nonprofit, but you're also, like you said, you're getting that vibe of walking around and saying, would I feel comfortable here? Does this seem like the kind of place I might want to volunteer?
So
Right?
you're doing this on a community-wide level. How many charities are you featuring on these tours?
Every class visits 23 nonprofits.
Okay.
So you visit this on the first day. And the secret sauce, Greg, is that first day, at least the first half of the first day, we teach them about their own community. And like I said, whether they have lived in that community their entire lives or they're new to the community, we've become the new welcome wagon. A lot of people new to the community go through the Give 5 program to learn about the community and make connections. But it doesn't matter whether you're new or you've lived there a long time. You learn a lot. And so I'm the former city manager of Springfield. And when I became the city manager, I learned so many things about my community that I didn't know. I thought I knew a lot because I have cable TV. So I thought, sure, I know about everything going on. But what I learned when I became city manager was how much I didn't. And so I thought, in putting this class together, why not share that information with everyone? And so warts and all. So we talk about poverty levels. We talk about good stuff going on in the community and celebrations and all this other stuff that you can get engaged and involved with. But what we end up doing in that first half of the first day is giving you a foundation of knowledge. So when we walk into a domestic abuse shelter, you go, okay, now I know why we have a domestic abuse shelter in our communities. And now I know why we have a food pantry. Now I know why we have these. And they'll say, I've driven by this building every day for 30 years. I never knew what went on in there. And now they know. And they come away inspired.
And when they're visiting the locations, they are seeing that it's impacting real people, whether they're employees there or volunteers or the clients that are coming in for the services. And I think that's important too.
It's absolutely important because like I said, everyone needs to feel needed. And you want to be, if you're going to be volunteering, you want to know you're making a difference. You want to know the organization you're helping is making a difference. And we divide nonprofits up into upstream versus downstream. So what I mean is downstream nonprofits are addressing the symptoms of poverty. And one of the things I should have said was every community we work with, we ask them the first question, which is, what's one major gnarly social issue you're wrestling with that you'd like to move the needle on, but you're just having difficulty changing? In our community, it was poverty. In St. Louis, for example, they're focused on mental health. In Oklahoma City, it's the social determinants of health. So every community gets to pick the issue. And then we customize the curriculum around that issue. So we're graduating hundreds of graduates into our community that are all working to address poverty, either upstream or downstream. Downstream nonprofits are addressing the symptoms. Think a food bank, a clothing bank, things like it. So what are the symptoms of poverty? The upstream programs are addressing the root causes. So those might be education and job training programs. And I'm oversimplifying it because a lot of nonprofits address both. So when we go into the food bank and they talk about, yes, we give away food, but we also do food education classes, or we do these kinds of classes to try and help people become more self-supporting and self-sustained.
That's neat. How many times a year do you do this?
We typically do this 4 times a year in Springfield. Some communities do it 3 times a year. Some do it 4 times a year. It's up to them how often they would like to do it. And it depends on the demand for the program. So we try and cap our attendance at 20. We used to do 25, but it was a little bit like herding cats and so we found 20 is the sweet spot. A class of 20 is big enough where you meet a lot of new people. These people become friends after the class, continue to get together. Sometimes they volunteer together. And it just becomes a social thing. And we'll have some people on the first day when they're introducing themselves to the class, stand up in front of a group of strangers and say, I'm lonely, or I've been isolating. And we've literally had people stand up and say, I haven't left my house this year except to go through a drive-through and get food. And this is the first time I've left the house to do anything other than that.
Wow.
That's powerful. And we have instances where people have said that, and then they graduate from the program. We call them back for a little class reunion to see how things are going. And they're the most talkative, and they stay the longest because they've had this impactful experience.
Is lunch provided since it's
We do provide lunch. We find if we don't provide lunch, they get hungry, and everybody gets angry at that point, or hangry. So yeah, we provide food and drink through the the whole class day. They're well fed, but we also make sure that they're being fed all these great stories and all this great information from throughout the community. And it is impactful.
What has been the impact on the nonprofits?
The nonprofits compete for Give Fiver. They call them Give Fivers now. And everybody wants Give Fivers. And if you go talk to the nonprofits in our pool, they will tell you their Give Fivers tend to be their most sticky volunteers and their best volunteers. And it's because they understand the why. And if you were retiring and you said, okay, I'm going to volunteer, I'm going to go through the phone book. And I know there's no more phone books, but let's say there was a phone book. And you just went through and just say, I picked that one. You don't really know why you picked that one. You just kind of randomly picked it. Or you say, my uncle's hairdresser's cousin works at that one, and so I'm going to go try that one out. That's not really a way you want to select a place to volunteer and spend your time. We allow them to make a more informed choice. And when you select something that touches your heart, it makes all the difference in the world. You become sticky. So you become the best volunteers. You're all the way through COVID, these people would continue to volunteer. In fact, we did virtual classes during COVID, not knowing how it would go. And the average number of volunteer commitments they made at graduation actually went during COVID.
Really?
They committed to more nonprofits per graduate than our in-person classes. And I think that speaks to the hunger for connection that was occurring. Everybody was feeling isolated and they were hungry for connection.
And I like that people are connecting with each other and forming friendships to combat the isolation, because you're right. That's a serious problem for seasoned citizens.
And I didn't fully answer your question about the impact on the nonprofits. So the state of Missouri, like I said, has officially adopted Give Five as a program, and they fund it. And so they asked us this year, would you go survey all the graduates in Missouri and find out, are they volunteering? Seems like a reasonable request. So we did a survey. We waited a little bit. We resurveyed those who didn't respond. So we had about a 50% hit rate by the time we were done, which is pretty good for a survey like that. And what we calculated is that Give Five graduates in Missouri gave more than $4 million worth of volunteerism in 1 year.
Wow.
That's a pretty good return on investment. So when you've got that many people impacting their communities, it only grows from there because they keep graduating classes and people just continually go out into the nonprofit community and make an impact.
Do you have to limit the number of nonprofits that participate? I would assume there are more than 23 in the Springfield area.
We're the third largest city in Missouri. We have 3,000 nonprofits. So how did we select 23? We actually selected about 35, and they're all addressing poverty, either upstream or downstream.
Okay.
And these are nonprofits that are pretty well known in the community for doing great work. So we're working with the cream of the crop. And so when you select like 35, what we do is we cycle them in and out. So this class will visit these 23 nonprofits. This is class 28. Class 29 will be most of those nonprofits. We might pull a couple and plug in a couple other ones. So it's a constantly changing mix. For the most part, most of those nonprofits will be highlighted in most of the classes, and they just love it. And we're literally dropping potential volunteers off at your doorstep. You have them for 45 minutes. You do what you can to impress them because you're competing with 22 other nonprofits. And the nonprofits or the volunteers that you get are wonderful volunteers. And so when we have a graduation, the mayor is our commencement speaker and the nonprofits show up, and it's like the college signing ceremony for athletes. If somebody's committed to go to a school and they bring the hats and the swag and everything, the nonprofits do that because we tell them, you're getting 4 graduates out of this class. And so they bring 4 shirts, 4 hats, 4 swag, whatever it is, and they get their picture taken with them. And those end up in the newsletters for the nonprofits.
Oh, that is so cool. I would imagine another good aspect of this is that the people who are volunteering for the nonprofits also tend to be financial supporters of them. Although it's not required, I would imagine that as they get involved with the mission, they want to help expand that mission and support it further.
Missouri State University researchers did a study, and this was before the pandemic, so it's a little older now, of classes and graduates, and asked them, are you financially contributing to the nonprofits that you learn? 52% said yes.
Yep.
And you're right. We don't ask them to do that. That is completely their choice, but it's just a logical byproduct. If you're there, you see the good work being done, you support them.
That's right. Absolutely. What's the impact on the individuals who are participating in this?
Oh, it's incredible. So we're working with researchers at Penn State University and Stanford University they developed these survey questionnaires. We ask the questions before and after the program so we can compare the results. And so did we move the needle on empathy? Did we move the needle on sense of belonging, on sense of purpose, those kinds of things? And the statistics are really good. One of the surveys that Missouri State University did early on showed that by far the program increased empathy tremendously, increased trust in nonprofits significantly, and increased the participants' sense of ownership of their community.
That's a good one.
If you can feel more ownership of your community and more empathy and more trust all in one program, you got something.
That's right.
Because those are all three really powerful.
I agree. If somebody wanted to start a Give 5 program in their own community, would it be possible for an individual to do that, or would it require a group like the United Way to put it together?
The host organization tends to be either a United Way or a senior center or an area agency on aging. We do have, like in Knoxville, Tennessee, it's hosted by Leadership Knoxville, which is a leadership program. That's a logical host too. So you probably in your community have a variety of organizations that are potential hosts. I don't think an individual could do it.
Okay. That's fair enough, because it requires a lot of networking, I would imagine.
Networking, and you're bringing in you have to get sponsors and things like that, and then you're scheduling buses, and it's a lot of logistics involved in that. But we templatize everything so that when we license it to a community, we call it Give 5 in a box. It's ready to go.
Okay. When you're teaching about the community, what kinds of things are you teaching them? Is it like demographics, so that people understand who forms the community? And
it's demographics. We use something called heat maps in Springfield. When I was city manager, the police chief used to bring me crime stats in a spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm.
And I would look at this, this doesn't mean anything to me. And so he went back and he created heat maps, visual maps of the city. And so you knew where the red spots were. And that was much easier for me to say, okay, now I know what we need to do. So whether it's police calls, fire calls, foreclosures, voting patterns, wealth indicators, all these things we show as heat maps. And when we're showing it to the class, you could hear a pin drop because they're all absorbing what they're seeing. And that's a great way to teach the class about that. But we also teach them about things that they might not know about. So payday loans. People know about payday loans, but do they really know what the average percentage rate of a payday loan is? And when they hear that it's over 500%, in some cases over 600% on average as the annual percentage, they're blown away. So we talk about, what does that mean? If you were living near the poverty line and you had no other choices and you had to get a payday loan, how do you get out of that cycle? So those are the kind of lessons we go through. Or it might be, 35 miles an hour if you drive by and somebody's holding up a sign that says, I need food or would appreciate a donation or whatever. What's their story? And what are the options? And what have we discovered when we went out and worked with those people to try and help them out? What did we find? And we share those kinds of things with them that maybe they drive by every day, but they don't know.
Do you share things like the major employers in the community as well? Because I think a lot of people would be surprised at who really hires a lot of people.
We don't get too much into employment. We do have some participants that end up getting jobs, nonprofits, because they're full of skills. And then the nonprofit says, I will hire you part-time to do this. Some people say, yeah, I'd do that. And other people are like, time out. Nope, I just want to volunteer my time. I don't want to be paid for it. And I want that flexibility to go see the grandkids when I want to go see the grandkids.
Exactly. That is very important. So as far as you're concerned, this is working.
Oh, we think it's working wonderfully. Last night, I interviewed LeVar Burton on stage for a Missouri Humanities Council event, and he did a commercial for Give 5 on stage that I wish I'd have recorded, and he had just learned about it, but just the concept of what Give 5 is about and how we're helping people apply their skills. It gives them that sense of purpose. It's rocket fuel, like I said, for the nonprofits. I wish I could have captured what he said because he got it almost immediately. It's working and it's needed in almost every community. I can't think of a community that doesn't need it.
And you number your classes. So what number are you up to?
We're hosting class 28 right now.
28. So 3 a year, 4 a year.
We do 3 or 4 a year, typically 4 a year. Yeah, we've been doing this for a while. It was about 7 years ago we started this.
That's amazing that it has not spread beyond the communities that are already part of your organization.
For the first couple of 2-3 years, we were just trying to keep it to ourselves. And then the horse got out of the barn and now 80 bar the door.
Sure. So are you officially retired now, or are you employed by the organization?
I am employed part-time by United Way of the Ozarks. So I've done my third retirement, and I'm either really good at it or really bad at it. But I'm a part-time worker for United Way of the Ozarks, running this program locally. And then on my own time, I manage the Give 5 program in other communities.
That's really cool. So yeah. I like this because a lot of seasoned citizens feel pushed out of their jobs, or they might be required to close their business or something. Mm-hmm. And when they do, they lose their sense of purpose. And they tend to fall into this trap, especially if they're going to retire and they're going to focus on recreation. After a while, they get bored. And so to cure the boredom, they turn to doom scrolling news stories on the internet or social media and things like that, which can also give them more depressing information, and they cause them to dwell and think I have a hopeless future, etc. You are showing them that they do have worth. Their skill, talent, and experiences would be invaluable for a community organization, and you're showing them opportunities to use that. So it's a double, triple, quadruple win for everybody, I would think.
We call it a win for those very reasons.
Absolutely.
And you may not, I don't know who Dr. Robert Putnam is. He wrote Bowling Alone, and he's considered the father or godfather of social capital. And he talks about the fact that, especially at this point in your life, you need to be civically engaged. You need to be engaged in your community. This is one way of doing that. And he says it's not enough to just give a donation to an organization or post something in social media in support of something or a cause. You need to be actively engaged in it. And so we give people an opportunity to get actively immersed in something that really feels good to them and touches their heart. It addresses social isolation and loneliness. It addresses this need for a sense of purpose. And like you said, there's just lots of wins. It's just multiple layers of positives. And media loves it.
Yeah, I could imagine. And so would the nonprofits.
Yeah.
There's got to be a story about all those guitars behind you, though. Are you collecting guitars, or have you played all of them?
I have played them all. I'm a guitar player part-time and play in a church praise band and an acoustic rock band here in Springfield. So I just love it. But I've got my wife says I suffer from GAS, which is guitar acquisition syndrome. And so I buy guitars, but I don't sell guitars. And so now I have 14. And so we thought we'll hang some of them up just because there's not enough room in the basement for all the guitar cases.
It's like a museum for guitars. That's funny. Yes.
And a couple of them have been one of these. The red guitar over there was played in the Ozark Mountain Daredevils for many years. So some of them have a story to them.
Okay. What else do you do that gives your life purpose in your semi-retirement?
In my semi-retirement, I am working on right now. This is interesting. So I was asked to give the keynote speech at the Festival of Faith's leadership dinner, which is the leaders of all the faith organizations in our community. And they come together once a year and have this dinner. And instead of doing a kumbaya keynote speech, would have been easy to do that, I listed 12 things that are going on, not just in our community, but every community, that are all trending in the wrong direction, that are resulting in us being polarized as a society. And so I've challenged our faith community to be actively involved in helping us address those. So I'm putting together a model. I don't know what this is going to look like, but it's around these dozen trends that are all going the wrong direction. So some of it has to do with social media and what's going on with the news sources, disinformation, misinformation, the fact that we've experienced the death of expertise, the dropping in trust of all institutions. Doesn't matter what it is, there's a drop in trust in it. The fact that compromise is now a dirty word, and we're polarized for very different reasons. And all of those things are interrelated and they impact each other. And so what can a community do to try and address those things? And so right now, this doesn't sound like something that would be fun to most people, but to me, I love trying to figure this out at the community level, 30,000 feet, and how we can get our community to rally around those issues that they find are important. So we're getting ready to survey the different sectors of our community, the business sector, the government sector, nonprofits, media, et cetera, et cetera. And we're going to find out what's important to them. So out of these dozen things, are there any of those that you feel like it's urgent that our community take on? And from there, we'll put together a strategy to start to address those things. So that's what I'm doing in my spare time.
In your spare time. That's great. You talk about the churches getting together in the community for this dinner. I am surprised they are not really embracing the Give 5 program to encourage their seasoned citizens who are attending their church to get involved in the community as well. Have your bus show up and then the church bus show up afterwards, and it'd be a whole day event for these poor nonprofits.
A lot of the churches do promote Give 5, some of them more than others, but we do get some of the churches that basically encourage their older members to get out into the community, and this is a great way to do it.
What advice would you give to somebody over 50 who is struggling to identify a purpose or a way to give their life more meaning?
Break your bubble. We all live in bubbles, same group of friends, and I have met people who live in a retirement community on a golf course, and when I talked to them, I said, so what are your days like? And they basically said, it's the same every day. We go to the clubhouse, we play cards, we go play golf, we go to dinner, repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And they do the same thing. And I would argue that breaking your bubble, do something that kind of takes you out of your comfort zone and goes out and you get a chance to experience in person something that you wondered about or that you thought, maybe I might be attracted to this. Get out and try it. And that might be volunteerism, but it might be something else. It might be, I've always wanted to learn to play guitar. It might be, I always wanted to learn more about flying kites. It might be, I always wondered what was going on over in the parks department. And what is this pickleball thing? I don't know what it is, but something that breaks your bubble that gets you out of that routine.
I agree. There are a number of people who might want to learn how to play guitar, but also people who are experienced at it who can help people fall in love with that. And it gives them both purpose. I think that's a great opportunity. I've
always found that things are more interesting where things collide and intersect. And so I'm a kind of a student of macro trends. That's how we created the Give 5 program, is it addresses 5 macro trends in a community. And so if you can take these macro trends and determine where they intersect. So for example, take artificial intelligence. Where does it intersect with anything? And start to research that. You come up with some kind of need or some kind of interesting possibility that comes out of that can be your own. And you say, nobody's ever done this. Where this is at the intersection of AI and stir-fry cooking. I don't know what it is, but
exactly. I forgot to ask, when people are going through the program, are they required to commit to a charity? If so, how many hours a week are they supposed to participate?
They are not required.
Okay.
We tell them volunteering is voluntary. You can go through the whole program and say, that was wonderful, love the experience, but it's not for me. But we have about a 98% hit rate. Right. So about 98% of the graduates do end up volunteering at least in one place. It's not required at all, but the vast majority do.
Do the organizations put restrictions or requirements on people who are volunteering? So if you're going to come for us, we would like you to volunteer at least 4 hours a week or whatever.
A few do. Most, something like CASA, where you're going to be advocating for a child. Yes. They'll have a little more significant obligation. Others, you can go to the Ozarks Food Harvest and you can put groceries in boxes and bags, and that's very flexible. So we try and give them an entire menu of opportunities, low skill, high skill, lots of flexibility, no flexibility, and they pick what they want. We call it Give 5 because we encourage them to give 5 hours, not 5 hours a day, not 5 hours a week, 5 hours a month.
Okay, that's
Is a
doable.
really low bar
Yes.
because we know that if they find something that touches their heart, they're going to do more than that. And they get to choose what they're going to do. But we call it Give 5 because we encourage them to do 5 hours a month. Statistically, on average, they do about anywhere from 18 to 20 hours a month.
That's a good point, that there's a big difference between volunteering at the food bank when you're just putting things into boxes or bags for people, or volunteering as a mentor for a child, where the kid really needs that consistent, regular contact with the same individual over an extended period of time to have a real impact.
And there's different requirements in terms of background checks and
exactly.
the amount of training. If you're going to be a CASA volunteer, I used to be the president of the board of CASA in our community. And so I always said, CASA volunteers are my heroes. I don't think I could do it. I can do my part on the board, but I'm just amazed by CASA volunteers.
That's neat. How can people get in touch with you if they would like to learn more about the program in hopes of bringing it to their own community?
If you go to our website, which is give5program.com, and it's the number 5, so GIVE 5program.com, you'll find a contact page there. Just drop us a note, let us know you're interested, and we'd love to have a conversation.
Are you folks active on social media at all?
We do a little bit on social media. We've got a Facebook page, and we stay in touch with our alums through that. But each host does its own social media. The Give 5 program in Kansas City, Missouri does their own social media and stays in touch with their graduates that way.
Okay, so there's not one overall umbrella for Give 5 at the moment.
At the moment, we do post some things that kind of go out beyond, but for the most part, each host is doing their own social media.
This has been fascinating, Greg. I really appreciate you sharing the story. It takes away all the excuses for people who say they don't have time or they don't know where they can be impactful in their volunteering, and you just put it all together. Thank you.
We try and make it easy, but we also make it fun. We try and put at least one experience into every day that's a wow experience where they can go home, and if they have a spouse at home or somebody, they can say, guess what I saw, or guess what I got to do today.
Absolutely. Thank you again for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg. Thanks for the invitation.
The Give 5 program isn't just a clever name. It's a life-changing experience that invites older adults to give just 5 hours of volunteer time per month. But more than that, it's a civic matchmaking initiative that connects purpose-hungry retirees with nonprofit organizations in need of their experience and skills. Greg Burris developed the program to develop a common problem. Many retirees feel lost, isolated, or even bored shortly after leaving their careers. They may have looked forward to relaxing and recreating, only to find those pursuits don't offer lasting satisfaction. Through a thoughtfully curated 5-day class, Give 5 takes participants on a journey, both literally and emotionally. Attendees board a bus each day to visit nonprofits across their community. These site visits aren't just informational, they're immersive. Nonprofit leaders explain their missions, volunteers share personal testimonies, and participants get a genuine feel for the energy, culture, and impact of each organization. Those experiences help seasoned citizens understand not only what each nonprofit does, but also why it matters and how their own unique skills could play a vital role. The Give 5 program's impact is measurable. In Missouri alone, Give 5 graduates contributed more than $4 million worth of volunteer services in a single year. Participants often have a stronger sense of belonging and greater trust in nonprofits. As Greg explained, Give 5 graduates tend to be sticky volunteers who stay committed because they feel genuinely connected to the causes they have chosen. Currently operating in 13 cities across Missouri, Oklahoma, Texas, and Tennessee, the Give 5 program is proving that older adults are an untapped powerhouse of civic potential. And thanks to the turnkey Give 5 in a Box licensing model, more cities can bring this inspiring program to their own residents. Whether you're approaching retirement or well into it, Give 5 offers a roadmap for discovering how you can use your life experience to make your community better and to enrich your own life in the process. To learn more about bringing the Give 5 program to your city, visit www.give5program.com. That's all I have for this week's show. If you'd like to start living a more meaningful life, I encourage you to download our free guide to finding purpose, which is available at www.forwardfrom50.com. We'll have another inspirational interview on the next episode of the Forward from 50 podcast. Thanks for listening, and if you like the show, please consider leaving a review wherever you download the episodes.